Hey sewing friends, today we are doing the Duel of the Dresses. So I have picked two patterns of similar looking, similar vibe, feel of dress. And as soon as one of these patterns came out, I was like, oh, I have to compare it. I have to see how this new one stacks up against my old favorite. So I'm going to be doing a little pattern comparison. So in this video, I will talk about all of the pattern details. I'll share my fabrics, then I'll go and I'll make them and I will report back which ones I liked better, what I learned, all about the instructions and the techniques. So I'm really excited for the Duel of the Dresses. So for this one, we are facing off the newcomer, the Tilly and the Buttons Mabel dress with my long-standing favorite pattern, the Seamwork Meg Dress. Now, both of these dresses have really similar, like peasant 70s style vibes. And as soon as the Mabel came out, I was like, oh, that is so similar. It's such a cool look and vibe, and I have to make it up, and I want to know how it compares to the Meg dress. So both of them have a tie front at the neck, again like that kind of peasant 70s vibes. Both have two different sleeve options and a very swishy, nice dress, elastic at the waist, so they're both like casual pull-on dresses. So I'm really excited to get into the details of both of them. I'll talk about the sizing, the main features, as well as the fabric suggestions. So before I start talking about the pattern details, I wanted to share which fabrics I have picked out. So to make this experiment slash competition totally fair, I have picked out two of the exact same viscose twills. These are both from NN Stoffen, so they're the exact same line, they're just in different colors. They have a really good weight to them. They are opaque and really nice and fluid and flowy, and both match the descriptions of what both dresses call for. They both call for viscose or lightweight wovens, so cottons and like this linen blends can work also, but I wanted them to both be the same so that I could get a really good read on the pattern itself and make sure that the fabrics fit the description. So I learned that last time, as well as would be the same, so we get a fair comparison. Now, the winner of the Duel of Dresses will get to be made in this fabric. It is a viscose twill also, but this one is Atelier Brunette, and it is definitely like a step up. These are great, they're fine. But this one is certainly like softer and drapier, and this gold ochre color is gorgeous. So I got this from a friend's D-stash, and when I got it, I was like, oh yes, that is a Meg dress, 100%. And I'm still confident that that would be great, but I thought I should give Mabel a bit of a try. So perfect for this little competition to try them out and see which one I like better, see which one will get to be made up in this gorgeous fabric. So I've got my notes here, and I thought we would start by talking about the Meg dress. This is a long-standing favorite pattern of mine. I have made 4 of them. I absolutely love this dress, so I thought we would start there as the reigning champion and then get into the details of the Mabel dress. So Meg comes in US sizes 0 to 16 and 12 to 30. So Seamwork has 2 separate size ranges. Total size availability is 34 to 64 inch hip. Now there is no high bust measurement listed in the size chart anywhere, but there is a ease chart and there is a like fit guide. So that is really helpful for determining like which size range you fit into if you are in that 12 to 16 sizes, which is where I land, so that's really helpful. Yeah, like I said, there's no high bust measurement, but the 0 to 16 is drafted for a C cup, and the 12 to 30 is drafted for a double D cup. Now, I find that a little confusing because to me that sounds more like bra sizes rather than dressmakers cups. So you don't usually see double D as the larger size range, but it could be, I just know it does fit the 12 to 30 range, does fit me pretty well. So yeah, I'm not quite sure where they land with the ratio of like high bust measurement to full bust measurement, but I do know that it fits me, and at least for the Meg, you have some flexibility because the bodice has a scoop neck with a little like adjustable tie front, so you can like bring it in, like cinch it in a little bit, or leave it more open. So I think that's kind of a nice adjustability feature. There is a split to the center front bodice. There is a seam right here which allows for that tie to come through. It's finished with a facing, which is what acts as that drawstring casing. The main pattern comes with flutter sleeves, but the Seamwork member bonus has a peasant sleeve, so there's a ring of elastic a little bit before the hem, so you get this nice little ruffle. So that is the one that I will be using because I think it's a great comparison to the Mabel, which we will talk about in a minute, but I really love it and I've made it a bunch of times. It is kind of a barrier because it is a member only bonus. You get a full extra pattern piece and extra instructions. I think it's worth it. I fully endorse this pattern. As I said, I've made it several times. And even if you were to sign up for a membership for like just the month to get this one member bonus, I'd say go for it. I think it's a really great yeah, a really good pattern and I love it. So that's my little spiel. The other detail of the bodice is that it has a waistband, and you can either do 1 or 2 waistbands to like lengthen yeah, the length of the bodice here. I initially made mine with the 2 because I have a rather long bodice, and I ended up hating it, and I think that the singular waistband works really well. But whether you go for 1 or 2, the seam allowances from where you sew the bodice to the waistband and then the waistband to the skirt, or waistband to waistband and then the skirt if you go for the 2, all of those seam allowances get turned, and then you get them top stitched down, and that becomes your elastic casing that you run that through to cinch everything in. I think it's a really clever design. It's really fun to sew, so I am a big fan. And then the skirt is a pretty basic A-line that gathers up with that elastic. So as soon as Mabel was released, I was so excited to sew it up. I like immediately bought it, immediately got these fabrics to compare. But yeah, I think it's one of the most successful pattern releases in the sewing community I've seen in a long time. And so I was almost like, do I even need to go into the details of the Mabel dress? But for consistency, I will. So starting with sizing, Mabel comes in UK 6 to 24, so that's a 33 to 61 inch hip. The size chart is done in what I call Tilly sizes. So instead of seeing that like UK size, you see sizes 1 to 15. It's fine. It's just like another thing to keep in mind, which I find a little bit annoying. I know that I'm a Tilly size 7, so I just like try to keep that in my head. The other thing I don't love about the size chart is that there's no mention of a high bust measurement, which I always think is the best way to be able to choose a size. Because yeah, some Tilly patterns have different drafting for like a different band within the full size range. And this one doesn't say that it does anywhere in the instructions or in the size chart. But in looking at the pattern pieces themselves, there is a change in the drafting starting at size 7. So both the Meg dress and the Mabel dress do this, where they add, starting in that, well, for Meg, it's the 12 to 30 range, and then for Tilly, starting at size 7, it goes from having a straight across ending of the bodice to having a bit of a curve, and that is really important when you're a bit busty, because both of these patterns have a lot of room and a lot of ease width-wise in the bust. But even when you have enough space width-wise, you still need to account for the protrusion and the length that the bust takes. So when you have it straight across, it starts to pull up on that waistline, and you get kind of your hem starts to dip, everything starts to come up, and you have a totally different fit. So by adding in that little extra length to the bottom of the bodice in that kind of curve shape, you are allowing the bust a little bit more room and keeping the line of it similar to the smaller sizes. And I think that's really important. So I'm really happy that both of these patterns account for that. But I do think it's a bit silly that that's not anywhere in the instructions or anywhere in the size chart, that the drafting does change starting at size 7. So that's a weird thing, but good to know, I guess. So that's why I'm saying it. Okay, so features. The bodice is a raglan sleeve square neck, and there's elastic at the shoulders and at the neckline in the front and the back. There's a little tie closure happening at the front. The tie is just decorative because there is elastic through the neckline here, and then the little tie is just tacked on. Now, to give that little tie effect, there is also a center front seam, so similar to the Meg. It's just good to know for if you're going to do any pattern matching, or if you have a type of fabric that you wouldn't want to break up the print. Both of these patterns have a split front there. And then the facings, I really love about this pattern. They are actually built onto the pattern piece, so it's just a turn down facing that you just iron and stitch. I think that is a really great beginner friendly way to do a facing. I think they're also really fun to sew because you get the cool angle that you cut out, and then you fold it down and press, and it's all nice and smooth. So the con of that is that it's a little harder to make adjustments because it is not a separate pattern piece, but I also think it's easier to sew. So yeah, there's that. It comes with 2 different sleeve options. There is a big bishop sleeve that is finished with shirring at the cuff, or there is the peasant sleeve, short sleeve option that I will be going for. So you have this kind of little ruffle that is created by sewing shirring a little bit away from where the hem is, so then you get it to stick out a little bit, and that is more comparable to what we've got going on with the Meg, even though that one is done with elastic rather than with shirring. Now the skirt or peplum, because Mabel does come as a blouse version as well, so it either hits at the hip for that peplum or down to a midi length, which also kind of lends it to that 70s vibe. Both the peplum and the skirt are a large rectangle, and you get the waist shaping by sewing 5 lines of stitching just at the top of that line, and then you stretch it into fitting the bodice when you attach them, and it cinches it all together just like magic. I think it is a really cute look. I really like the look of shirring. I've just tried it for the first time on some refashions, and I'm really excited to do it for the Mabel dress and see how I like it compared to the elastic of the Meg. So I'm going to be working on these 2 dresses over the next month or so. I'll be taking lots of notes about what I liked about the instructions, the construction method, and then of course I will be here to show the finished garment at the end, and so you can see how they compare to each other. Now, I did want to address one little thing, and that is that I wanted, just to be totally like fair, I've made the Meg dress 4 times and I have not made the Mabel dress. So it's a little unfair that like I've got the fit like really dialed in for the Meg. I didn't make a toile like I had initially planned to before starting this little competition project for the Mabel dress, but I have actually tried one on in my size. A friend of mine has made a couple of versions, so I was over at her place, I got to try it on, and so I know what I want to do to tweak the fit just a little bit. I want to take a total of 1 inch just out of that center front, so I'm just gonna alter that right on the pattern piece. It should be a really simple, quick adjustment, and then again for that, I might do something different for the tie. Like I said, a lot of people really like the elastic, that it kind of like sits a bit closer. You kind of have that like security of having the elastic close to your chest. But I might either do an elasticated drawstring to make it functional, so I can also cinch it in or let it out depending on size changes. That's a thing that I found I really like about the Meg. Or I might do just like a full drawstring. So I may or may not use the elastic, but either way, I'm not going to do the like just tacking on the ties. They are going to be somewhat functional. So those are the changes that I plan to make, just small alterations. And again, I will go through that at the end when we see everything together. So those are my plans for the Duel of Dresses. We are going to have a viscose twill Meg in this beautiful bright bottle green that has cat hair on it, and a chambray colored viscose twill Mabel dress. So these will be 2 great dresses that I'm really excited to add to my spring summer wardrobe. And then whichever one is the winner, or if there is quite possibly a combination of the 2, we shall see in this gorgeous Atelier Brunette viscose twill. So I'm really excited to get sunk in to sewing up these dresses, and I of course will let you know everything I learn along the way. If you have made either of these before, I'd love to know your experience. If you have any like tips or tricks or modifications that you did, let me know down below. Again, I'm super excited. I think they're going to each be something that I love to wear. It's definitely like up my style street. It's kind of like boho-y 70s. So yeah, super excited. Let me know if you've made them before, or if you are planning to make one, or if you have any questions, anything that I should look for along the way if you were curious to eventually make up one of these patterns. That is all from me today. I will be back soon with my finished Meg and Mabel dresses. Bye!